Like I hear coach on the side going, "Oh, that was nice, Mike," and I'm like, "Oh fuck, hell no, can't let him stun on me in front of coach." So I like started to turn it up a bit, but I wasn't really fully warm. I get the arm, but as I do, he just bucks hard.
Yeah.
So my knee he just goes that way, and we both hit this like pop. And I was like, ah, shit. And then we both stopped right away. And I was like, yeah, I fucked up. And it was my fault because my knee was under him. So I shouldn't have tried to come up. I should have taken my knee out first and then come up. And the next day I woke up, it was kind of sore. And it's like, it's okay going like straight, but like anything rotational, it kind of feels funky. I think it's nothing crazy. It's probably like maybe a grade 1 or like a little meniscus pop,
I
you
love
know.
how we've been doing jujitsu long enough to kind of diagnose ourselves. Yeah, yeah, I know. I can't walk, but it's not that serious, bro. It's just a grade.
I'm telling you,
Well,
yeah.
we're good.
If you ever want to save on medical bills, just walk into a jiu-jitsu gym and ask them to diagnose your injury.
But yo, does it
Even
hurt
if
when
you
I?
don't train, just walk into a jiu-jitsu gym and be like, "Yo, I got this pain in my elbow. It's been like 3 weeks now." I guarantee you there's someone in that gym that will have had it, dealt with it on their own, know all the PT exercises, all the like injections you could get. Be like, "Oh yeah, go to this guy, go to that guy. This is how I fixed it."
Let's do
But
this, bro.
yeah, let's
Episode
kick off
4.
4, right? I was trying to think how many we had. I was like, "Oh shit, we
Because
made
the
it to
one with
4."
Mauricio, I mean, we got to redo that one, but
Technically, we're at episode 6.
let's
We just got
go.
2 ghost episodes.
Let's
Uh,
go. We out here
we're working
making it. We're
hard out
making
here.
it, making it.
No. So what were you up to last week, bro? You were out competing?
Yeah. And prepping, I had my tournament last week. Well, not a tournament, excuse me. I had a match last week in Manhattan. I won that bad boy. Came home with $500 richer. Shit was gone like that with bills, but blessed regardless either way. So that was pretty cool. I thought it was a Masters match, but the guy is 22.
Damn.
Yeah, he was pretty young, but got the job done regardless, age or not. Again, doesn't really matter. It just, who decides to show up that day. And, kudos to my opponent. He was pretty scrappy. But yeah, I've been competing. Um, Daughter's birthday this weekend, so didn't really get to train much since Friday or Thursday was my last hard session. I do have a session later on this evening, so, I'm competing for 2K this coming Sunday, so I'm hyped for that. Need some money, so I'm going home with arms, ankles, whatever I could take. I'm taking it home just to bring home that bread.
You have to drop your Venmo in the comments.
Yeah, let's go. Cash App. And I'll just Cash App J Rome's out here, guys.
Struggling athlete over here.
Struggling
If you want to
athlete. Promo
donate,
code J Rome to get some of these t-shirts off now, man.
right. So that's one of the things I wanted to ask you is like with competing against younger guys, like do you have a set like strategy that works or like a game plan that you always go in, or are you just like, nah, whatever, man, I'm just gonna scrap, see what happens?
Oh, it's a good question because it's something that I've been kind of like having personal conversations with myself about that because I never really have a clear game plan ever. Or at least I think I do. And then when it's time to show up and I look at my opponent, I shake his hand or like I see him warming up, I just change on the spot. Like for example, last week my goal was to wrestle. I could wrestle. I wanted to show off some wrestling, which I did. I even showed off some judo trips, which was cool. But I caught him practicing the octopus. I guess his boy was, been watching my Instagram for a bit. I'm the octopus god out here in the Northeast. So, I saw
Yo,
him.
bro, I've been playing with it now.
Bro, it's always there. It
Yeah.
literally is always there. And I've been doing it since white. No one's really peeping it until now.
What I've been doing that I like is I got this from I was working it with my boy Habibi Jiu Jitsu
Hmm.
over. He's from 10th Planet Atlanta. He's like really cool guy, really good grappler. He was showing me like if they're passing and they cut the corner, just kind of reach for that far leg and then come up into like a kind of turtle position. And you can get like this kind of, it's almost like a reverse, like what do they call it? Russian double leg or reverse double leg. So it's kind of like octopus. Yeah. And you can either take them this way or you can shoot under them if they push in hard.
Yeah, there's so many things. The back take is my favorite, or back take the truck entry. As long as
Yeah.
people don't really realize it and drop a gem here, but the octopus is a lot of where that truck leg is. Like if you're bottom leg, especially from half guard, right? I like playing deep half, so I'm always working my way to dogfight. If you can get into that position but your leg is secured under the behind the knee, you're golden. You can literally go from octopus to deep half, the dogfight, the truck entry. And like I said, I like getting the from octopus. I do like getting the sweep, but then I'll transition right into the truck, whether it's calf slicer, knee, banana split, or even, twister in a way. But there is a
Nice.
lot there. But yeah, I caught the dude like 6 times with 4 different sweeps. And like again, like nothing against him and his boy because they did feel he did feel like he prepped very well for this match, but they weren't practicing it correctly. And I'm just like, yeah, bro. I went from I'm gonna wrestle to now I'm pulling guard and I'm just gonna spam half guard. And that's pretty much what I did. But he forced me to, stand, which is what I wanted essentially. But yeah, man, that's pretty much it. Like I said, this weekend is a little different of a game plan. It's a 12-man bracket. A lot of MMA guys, so I don't really know if I can pull off pulling guard on some of these guys.
MMA guys are different, man.
Yeah,
Like,
bro. Like one of them is
yeah,
my student, which is ass. Like we didn't communicate at all, and I'm like, all right, but it is what it is. I'm gonna coach him throughout the tournament until it's our time to go against each other, which hopefully it's in the finals. Then yeah, I already know how
yeah,
to dissect this guy.
yeah, yeah,
So it
yeah.
is what it is.
Yeah, the MMA guys is like they got a different level of gas tank, man. Dude, I'm too old and lazy for that. I'm like, let me just pull guard on these motherfuckers.
Well, with
Try
that
and
being
like jump on a leg and a scramble and hopefully get a quick tap. Yeah. So what were we saying? Yeah. Let's start again. The Jiu Jitsu Underdogs. Welcome back. Episode number 4.
yes,
We
sir.
did 4. We have three in the books. This is the 4th. So we're on a roll. We're on a roll. And if this is your first time listening to Jiu Jitsu Underdogs, it's a podcast with 2 ordinary guys trying to do something a little extraordinary within Jiu Jitsu. So it's a behind the scenes of the up and comers, the underdogs, the scrappy guys and gals in the trenches,
Yeah,
the
buddy.
people trying to make a little living out of this crazy, crazy world that's called Jiu Jitsu. You got myself, Mark. I am the founder of Nation Athletic, Jiu Jitsu apparel brand. And you got this handsome young gentleman, Mr. John Romero.
Yes, sir. Let's go. Nation's own Juan Romero. Yeah, I actually gotta get myself a haircut. That's why I'm wearing a hat today.
Nice.
I
We got
got
the
the
same
stubbies all out.
Baldy. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, bro.
I just trimmed
2
mine up the
handsome
other
bald
day
guys.
too.
That's what we should have named the
Yeah, yeah.
podcast.
So today's theme is the blue belt trap. We did a little episode on quitting and sort of the mindset around quitting and why people quit and how not to quit. So this one kind of feeds into that because obviously a lot of people quit at blue belt. But instead of talking about the quitting aspect of it, it's more we're going to focus on like the plateau, like what happens when you hit a plateau, whether it be in business or in your training. Because I don't know about you, John, but I was a blue belt for like, well, no, you came up pretty quick, but I was a blue belt for years. I was like, at one point, I was like, that's it. Like, I'm happy. I'm just gonna stay blue belt for the rest of my life. I think it was like 3, 4 years. I mean, COVID was like a part of that. Do you know what I mean? Because that like kind of killed a couple of years of like formal training. But yeah, I hit this plateau at blue where I was just like, man, like I know I suck at jujitsu. I just don't know how to get better at jujitsu.
You're a blue belt for like 3 years, you said?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It must have been, yeah, I think it was 3, 4 years, maybe. I mean, some of that was because like I moved from gym to gym because a couple of gyms I was started at closed down. I think the guy who I got my blue belt, he was like my coach's coach. So he kind of dropped in, then left. And I was like, you know how it gets sometimes it's messy, sort of going from coach to coach. Then there was COVID too. And then really only started training with Drew during COVID, gave me my purple and brown. Well, it was him and John Carlstein that gave me my brown. But in any case, I was a perpetual blue belt and I resigned myself to be happy with the fact I should be a blue belt for the rest of my life. I'll be like, it's cool. I'll just be like the most sandbag blue belt out there. Like, I'll just be a 45-year-old blue belt wrecking all these 45-year-old black belts. I was like, I'm good with that.
Hey, ain't nothing wrong with that, bro.
Right.
I
But
had
it
a
got me
buddy of mine, he
thinking,
was a blue belt pretty much my whole career up to purple. And bro, I mean, he was one of the nastiest blue belts. Even to this day, now that he's at purple, he's still one of the nastiest jiu-jitsu guys I've ever rolled with. But it's just like,
yeah, yeah, you got to watch those guys. Like, they come in, they got like a freaking t-shirt on and like a pair of tap out shorts.
and that's what I try
They
to
look
tell
like,
people too. Like even some of my students, like they want to rush to blue belt, but it's just like, bro, you don't understand. Like blue belt, it's the one that makes you or break you. You know, say you're gonna run into someone who just got their blue belt just like you, but then you'll probably run into someone who's been a fucking blue belt for like 6, 7 years.
Right.
And then that's never no fun either,
Yeah. But I think that
you
that
know?
kind of feeds off the last show where we are talking about, a lot of people quit at blue and sort of how not to quit. But I think once you get through that and let's say, you stick with it and you know you're not gonna quit, you're gonna, or at least for me, and it's the same with business, you end up in that stage where you just plateaued, where you're like, I got so much to learn. I don't feel like anything's clicking. I'm kind of lost in the abyss.
Mhm.
What do I do? How do you manage that? I mean, as a coach, is that something you see? You see a lot of blue belts dropping out?
I mean, I don't have many blues right now. I have maybe just 2 that I personally promoted on my own. I have 2 more and on the way that I'm gonna promote, like, next month, actually. They don't know who they are, but if they listen to this podcast, I hope they're coming to practice. But
They
I know
better
for
listen to
me
this
at least.
podcast.
What happened?
I said they better listen to this. Don't promote them if they're not listening to your podcast,
Exactly,
bro.
they're gonna stay at white forever.
All right.
At least for me, and from what I've noticed, at least in my like, just getting to know people, being in the community, and just seeing what it is, like, it's not even the athlete's fault half the time, right? It could just be the coach, too. A lot of these coaches, which is rightfully so, man, you're representing not just yourself, but you're representing a whole lineage of people. You're representing your coach and his grind and what, his come up. So, some people have crazy high standards. I was a blue belt. I got it in December 2022. And then I got promoted last year in May to purple. So I was at blue for pretty much what, 2.5, almost 3 years also. And I think a lot of it, before I made the transition from one school to another, my last coach was heavy on gi, heavy on gi. And don't get me wrong, I like gi, but at this point, like, I compete nonstop in no gi. And it's not even something that's preferred because, like, as you can see, I have a few of gold at gi. Majority of those golds are gi, which is ridiculous. But um yeah, it's crazy. But, yeah, some people have crazy high standards. I know one, and I'm not gonna not name drop them, but I know one academy, it's like you gotta place or win worlds at your belt in order to move on to the next one. Like, the chances of that happening is, like, very low. Like, like, sometimes you'll run into a phenom even if you work really hard and you are that good, and, you may just take second, may just take third, and then if you're still stuck at blue or whatever belt you are because of that crazy standard, then, it is what it is. That's why, sometimes it is important to figure out what academy you want to go to and kind of just stick there. At least for me, I think my problem right now, I'm kind of a nomad now. Um, Kind of dropped the school I was just recently repping. No hard feelings over there. I just kind of had to do what I had to do. So, like, I'm a coach and I'm now running 2 other academies, but I don't have a coach essentially. I mean, I train with Kevon at bodegas pretty much every day, but I'm not really technically under bodega. So I'm at this weird Itachi phase in my life, like Naruto, where I'm just like nomad going around school to school, village to village, just giving out smoke to people until I guess I
Yeah.
find my home. But yeah, man, it all, like you said, it's all the journey, and sometimes it's the standard. But you're right as far as the quit, not the quitting aspect, but there are people who they just don't want to be a wipeout and they just want to say they got the blue, and then they get their blue, and the next thing you know, you just don't see them in practice anymore, which is it's kind of weird. I don't know if they just feel like some sort of set of accomplishment, but you'll legit see some people get their blue and just that's it. Like, I'm not doing this no more.
Right, right. I think it's difficult because, like I was thinking about it, the stages of the belts and kind of like also the stages of me running the business. And there's a lot of parallels there because I think at the beginning everything's new and exciting. So you're like an excited puppy dog. You're like rushing home to tell you why.
Mhm.
Hey, there's this thing called a Kimura. It's the craziest thing on the planet. It's like you make this grip and you could just like dislocate the guy's shoulder. It's fucking awesome. Do you know what I mean? And then you
You
hit
start
blue
doing
belt
moves
and you're
on
like,
them.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then you kind of like, you learn a thing or two, you get promoted, you get your blue belt, and then you end up as a blue belt, you're kind of like, you think you know it all, but you're like, okay, I know a thing or two, so I should be getting better at jiu-jitsu and I should be seeing progress. But then you realize just how little you know. Do you know what I mean? Because I think like a white belt, everyone kind of takes it a little easier on you. They kind of baby you a little bit. And then as soon as you get that blue, now the upper belts are like, all right, cool, time to smash. 2, 3 weeks Dagestan, forget. Do you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah,
they come and start trying to like
yeah,
put the heat on you. And like I remember with Drew, it was like every belt rank I
yeah.
got. he would give me a new type of roll. And I'm like, oh, Jesus, just send me back to the other belt, bro. This is like, this is way harder. And I think you
Or
sort of
those days
realize you've,
that first day you get the belt, they whoop your ass as soon as you get it.
I
You're
know.
like, damn.
Bro, I remember the first role I got my brown belt. It was Drew was with me over at John Callistein's, and I'm like, I was like, I didn't want it. I was like, because in my mind, I was like, I'm happy being purple. It kind of like I got a little skill. You know what I mean? It's like credible. I'm not a beginner anymore, but there's no pressure. Like if I tap a brown or a black belt, great. If they tap me, who cares? If the blue belt gets me, it doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? But anyway, I got the brown belt. And then I realized everyone was like, they were like, all right, I'm gonna put the heat on him. Let's try and sub a brown belt today. I was this white belt, and he's a good dude. He's like wrestled, big strong guy. But for whatever reason, he got on my leg, locked in a straight ankle, and like John's like right there looking at me, and he's just fucking squeezing for dear life. And I'm like thinking, shit, my shit's about to break. But I was like, I just got my brown belt. I can't fucking tap in front of John. I escaped that shit by the skin of my teeth, and I was like walking with a limp for the next week. And I was like, damn, man, people like as soon as you get promoted, people really it's like true. People really want to just come and rip your head off. But I was thinking, but anyway,
It's the
well,
same with
kind
me
of,
with my students, man. My one student I had to tap, like genuinely, he caught me in an ankle lock and just tried to take it home. And
I'm not
I mean, I beat his ass for the rest of the round, but it was just
right.
but
But that's the
I
other
was
part
proud
of
of
it,
him too.
right?
So what happened?
That's the other part of it. Yeah, I was saying that's the other part of it because I remember I think I've only caught Drew like a couple of times, but every time I caught him, like the rest of the round is just misery. He's
Yeah.
like, all right, cool, I'm gonna show you.
He's like, all right, cool. You catch me slipping. All right, bet.
Right.
Let's
But I
not,
think
let me humble
what it
you.
is like the hard part about blue is you kind of you learn a thing or two and you think you kind of started to figure it out,
Hmm.
and then you open up this whole Pandora's box where you realize you actually don't know anything, and then you almost have to start from scratch again. So you end up realizing like, man, I haven't even started to climb the hill yet. So you end up in this sort of
Yeah.
like plateau state where you're like, thought I knew jiu-jitsu, I don't know jiu-jitsu, what do I do now? But I think it's the same thing with business. Like when you first start, it's almost like the first year was actually the easiest for me because it's like you're new on the scene, everyone's excited. It's like, oh, have you seen this new company? They got this new design. Let's go check them out. So it's really easy to like pick up customers. And after a while, that excitement fades, and you're like, all right, cool. It's no longer exciting, and I gotta still figure out how to progress and grow even though all of those easy wins have kind of dried up.
So would you say it's more ego or boredom where these blue belts kind of just fall off, or where people get their blue, they kind of just fall off?
I think it's like it was something you said, how there's different standards, right? Like one gym's blue belt requirement is like you got to be a world champion. The other is like, nah, you just got to show up twice a week. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's difficult because you got this grading system that's trying to apply the same standard to everyone in every gym, but it's like people's goals are different. Do you know what I mean? Like a hobbyist isn't really concerned with winning a world title. Do you know what I mean? Like I started
Yeah.
this like really late. I started this like mid 30s. So I was like, I don't really care to compete. Like I'm already banged up. I've already competed in other sports. I'm just here because I love it. That's literally the only reason why I'm here. So I don't honestly like after a while, I was like, I don't really give a shit if I get promoted or not. Just so long as I can keep training, I'm happy. So how do you grade someone like that versus like a 25-year-old that wants to become IBJJF world champion? The two goals are completely different. So I think it's like totally different for the individual. And I think you always say you got to kind of blue belt, you got to figure out your why. That's kind of how you get through the plateau because you like at first you're doing it because it's exciting and you're getting those quick dopamine hits. But then when they dry up, you got to figure out, what is it that I want to do? And that's what we were saying on the last episode, having that long-term goal, I think helps you get through the plateaus. But I think you've also got to start being a bit more strategic in your training or your business. You can no longer just show up and be excited about Kimuras. You're like, all right, cool. I have to learn some like concepts and fundamentals, whether that be like, okay, now I actually have to learn digital marketing. Do you know what I mean? I have to learn like the technical piece of it, how to motivate people to make purchases, how to shoot ads, looking at hook rates and figuring out what hooks work best. You can't just like throw ads into Facebook and hope that they sell. Because when I first started, it was super easy. I could just throw a shitty picture that I'd taken on the floor of my kitchen, throw it in, and because it was new and no one had ever seen it before, they're like, "Oh my god, this is new! Like, let's go check it
Yeah.
out." It gets clicks, it gets engagement. and it would generate sales. Now it's like, oh yeah, cool, we've seen that 100 times. Like, I don't care what else you got. Which is why this
Yeah.
year I've been focusing a lot more on trying to like be strategic with the drops. Like obviously January is going to be dry, so like February, March is where I'm starting to put like new drops. So I'm trying to set targets for myself. So it's like every 2 months or 3 months there's a new drop. So right now I got a few new drops going. I got a collab with Odyssey. It's like a custom ranked. I got the World Cup teasers. They're going to be on pre-sale for spring, and then we just dropped a new Palestine fundraiser. So anyway, it's kind of off topic, but I think it's not even really about ego.
They all look pretty damn good.
Thank you, bro. Yeah, yeah. I was this week's been rough, man. I've
No,
been
of
up to
course.
like 2, 3 in the morning working on designs every day, pretty much. But yeah, but I think to answer your question, I don't even know that it's about ego. I think it's about like you got to find your purpose and like figure out like your strategic way of getting through that plateau. Like, what are you working on? Like, do you know what I mean? It's no longer about just learning the Kimura and figure out like a game plan.
Yeah, and I also feel like too, like, yeah, it's your coach, he sets a standard, but he needs to take that time to also like have that conversation with you. One thing that I continue to do from what I learned from one of my old coaches, and I feel like I stay shouting this dude out, but Mark Ramos really set the tone for me in my jujitsu career and how to like conduct myself on and off the mat. And even as a coach now, I still go to him for some guidance. But one thing that I do that he did with me is like when someone tells me, hey, like I want to compete, and I know it's their first time, I legit take, whether it's before or after practice, like a 15 to 20-minute conversation, just like, yo, what's your goals? Like, like tell me, like, is it just this one tournament? Like you just want to try it out? Like, what do you want to do essentially? And my job as a coach is to kind of figure that out. And then that's when I can figure out realistic standards for that particular guy. Like, how am I going to push them? Or girl, how am I going to push them? How am I going to motivate them? We're a hobbyist again. Maybe I have that conversation with them too. Hey, like, like, I would then go out and ask them personally, hey, like, do you plan on competing? Like, are you just here to chill and just train? He goes, I just want to train and just learn. And though, again, with those people, then it's like, all right, cool. I'm not going to just hand you a belt either, but like, yeah, come to class like 2, 3 times a week for the next, year or so. And then we can talk about, where your progress is and things like that. I mean, I don't want to just give it to you either because you're consistent in class, but like if I'm seeing you in class pretty much every day for like 2 years, 3 years straight and you're getting good, then yeah, you know what I'm saying? If you can do the basics, whether it's escape, do the, basic triangle, arm bar, escape, whatever, those type of deals, then, that's typically a decision maker for me, at least. It's my early coaching career, you know?
No, I was gonna say because I was thinking it's interesting with the hobbyists, like because I know other people that started training around the same time as me, and they were like, I just want to burn some calories, lose some weight, and this is kind of fun. So they're actually not even interested in getting better. They're just kind of like they show up. They're like, yeah, drilling's cool, whatever, whatever, but I'm just really here for a workout. So whether I win or
Hmm.
sub people, I don't care. And I got a couple of friends who started at the same time as me, and like, not to sound like a dick, but they really haven't progressed past when we first started training. I think they got to blue or purple. I haven't seen them in a while, so no idea what they're doing now. But I went back to see him and trained with them, on and off over the years, and I'm like, it's like basically rolling the same person from 4 or 5 years ago. So as a coach, I guess, how do
Yeah.
you that if someone like hit that plateau and they just kind of never really would you try and push them to do better or would you just accept okay cool you're just like basically a lifer for purple belt.
No, I mean, with cases like that, and again, I know I've been coaching for about 3 years now. But, cases like that, you either, yeah, you try to push them or like see where their mindset is at. Like if they're just here, just have a good time, then you can't really force like that saying, you can take a horse to the water, but you can't force them to drink it, right? They got to kind of find that Kool-Aid on their own. And sometimes it does take a good ass whooping too. Not even from the coach necessarily, right? It can be from like a young kid if the guy's like in his 30s and he has a kid at that age, right? Or just someone who just comes into the game a little bit more hungry, and then that's when that that random fire just kicks in. You know what I'm saying? Like, damn, I gotta get better. And then
Hmm.
typically for me, when I feel like that, or I feel like I'm not going anywhere with it, that's when, cross training is super important. That's when like maybe the BJJ fanatics accounts are super important. just going out there trying something different or exactly that, trying something different. Like if you just go into practice continuously doing your A game and what works for you, after a while it becomes boring. Like, all right, cool. Like I can't just be coming to practice and octopusing people every day. Let me go to practice and pull guard and do some leg entries, or let me start focusing on wrestling, on this practice. So you got to like find different ways to keep yourself going. But to me, most importantly is the cross training. Like I love going to different gyms, whether it's doing good there or getting my ass whooped there. That's typically what motivates me when I start hitting that plateau, because it's not even you that's plateauing. Is you've been rolling with the same people for so damn long. They know how you shoot, they know your setups, they know pretty much everything about you. So yeah, just like you're getting better, the person in front of you is getting better too. So it's important to kind of go out there, if you don't plan on competing, going out there and just rolling with someone you wouldn't typically roll with, just to kind of see where you're at. And who knows, that one practice can kind of push you to step it up and then, want to get better or get better.
Do you think there's an argument to be had for like attendance-based belt systems for people that literally have no interest in competing or actually getting good? They're just there as a hobby to, lose some weight. You think that because I know that's something that people talk about. I saw a post where it was like some guy was basically saying, "Oh, hobbyists shouldn't get black belts because they're not really focused on competing, and how good is their actual jujitsu in like a real competition environment."
Yeah.
I have opinions either way, but
I feel like where people are dropping the ball is like they're this is a martial art first before it's a sport. We just jujitsu just kind of grown to that level. But like I know people who don't compete and they kind of whoop my ass. I had this one dude named Matt, he trains at Bergen, and bro, he don't compete at all. His wife competes a lot, but he doesn't compete at all. And this guy is a straight up dog. Like the intensity that he brings in all these rounds and his like mat awareness and like his technique is really good. And he don't compete at all. And I have another buddy named Omar who's the same way. He's just a full-time sheriff or something like that. Oh, I lost my boy. Oh, he's a full-time sheriff or whatnot. There you are. But he comes to practice every day. So like this guy, I don't think he's missed a practice in over 3 years, but he don't compete. Like,
right.
yeah, you know, people need to take that hat off and remind themselves like, yo, this isn't a sport. I mean, it's a sport, but it's not always about the sport. Like how like it's a martial art. So like, I tell my students this, like, are you making the room better with your presence? Like, yeah, it's cool you're winning all these tournaments, but are you getting a or a woman next to you better? Are you like a generally nice guy in the room? Like, it's things like that you got to consider, not just going there and beating a black belt or beating a brown belt or, beating whoever. Sometimes it's like, yeah, what impact do you make to the team? Like, like again, eventually Jay Rome's is going to have his own lineage, right? I don't want to just promote a bunch of dickheads because they're good at jujitsu. You know what I'm saying? I want, a good young man or an adult dude or a young lady or an adult woman to come through and actually make a positive impact on the team. That way the family grows, the name grows. And that's just pretty much for me, that's just what it is. But as a coach, you kind of have to figure out which one is the one that's that mindset and which one is the one that's like, all right, I want to compete. I want to be like a champion. So with that guy, it's going to be a little harder role than it would be for someone who's just coming here just to lose weight. Like I said, I came in just to lose weight. I didn't want to compete at all. And then, like I said, my buddy, he didn't pass away first, but he got me to do my first tournament. I did it just to kind of shut him up, but then he passed away. And then
Mm,
that's what triggered me to just keep on going, because he did a lot of super fights. He did Nagas. He was refereeing and doing scorekeepers, and I technically kind of just followed his footsteps in a sense. And then that's, and I wish he was here to kind of see all this, because I know it would be crazy for him to be like, damn, Jay, like you're doing it, like, so yeah, man. Like I just rambled there, but like I think, yeah, it's a lot of the coach's job to kind of figure out where to place some of these people.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's funny because I've seen both sides of the coins where I've rolled with higher belts that are hobbyists, and as a lower belt, I'm like, man, this guy kind of sucks, and it gets you questioning him, the coach that gave him the belt. and you're like, this doesn't feel like a brown belt. Do you know what I mean? Like, but then on the
Yeah.
flip side, I've had that dude that comes in like a beat up t-shirt and a like 25-year-old pair of tap out shorts. And you ask him what belt he is, and I'm like, I never really got promoted. He's like, maybe picked up a blue belt at some point. And then he's like, the toughest role you've ever had. Do you know what I mean? I mean, the wearing tap out shorts, you know, they're probably going to be a tough role because anyone that knows that brand knows what I'm talking about. Like,
Chances are the
been,
guy's a wrestler too.
yeah. So, you know, on both sides, I've seen it, you know, where it's like you go against a blue belt that's been a blue belt for like 15 years and wrestled and is just like, doesn't care about belts, has no interest in belts, and is just like there to scrap. That's all they want to do.
Mhm.
But then you get the hobbyists that like, you know, aren't there to compete. And I don't want to say that like they shouldn't have that belt because I think again it boils down to like you say, the coach has to identify what are they trying to get out of it. And it's kind of the same with business. Do you know what I mean? It's like if you're just trying to do it because it's fun and like maybe make a little extra change, and it's like I mean, I don't think anyone starts their own business because they think it's fun. It's like literally the hardest thing you'll ever do in your life, and it'll probably make you broke for about five
Right.
to 10 years. Let's say you were doing it just for fun. Then you have to level set your expectations. You know what I mean? You're probably going to hit that plateau and not really get past it. I think you said something that definitely resonated with me from not just a training perspective, but a business perspective. It's like you have to start taking risks and experimenting. Do you know what I mean? Whether in your training or in your business, if you do the same thing day in, day out, you're going to hit a plateau and it's probably never going to change. So I kind of came to that realization after 2024, sort of like halfway through 25. You know, I was basically, when I first started the business, a couple of key things worked and they worked pretty relatively easily. So I was like, all right, cool, just double down on those, put all my chips in there and keep doing them. So it was like, you know, focusing on my best sellers and pushing them through the ad account and using them to try and acquire new customers, which is fine. It works. But then after a while, it's like, just the same way in the room, in the training room, you know, people change and the games progress and people get better at this position and that position. It was the same with the business, you know, the algorithm shifted, people's attention spans got shorter. You know, the world changed. Like we had tariffs, we had freaking the Middle East blowing up every other week, and then you know, crazy weather systems disrupting flights, and you know, a bunch of other changes, making the whole sort of supply chain and ecosystem within small businesses a lot tougher. So, you know, I realized I was like, damn, like I see my business sort of go down each month compared to the prior years. And I was like, realize I've basically been doing the same thing for a year straight because, and it's so hard, right? You get hit with so many different pieces of advice when you're in these kind of plateau states. And it's like, you listen to this guru and they say, nah, you got to focus on your best sellers and, you know, double down on what's working. And then you listen to someone else, they're like, oh, you got to diversify. You got to be on TikTok, Amazon, da, 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 da. So you're like, well, who the hell do I listen to? So for me, I'm very numbers driven. So I was like, I'm just
Yeah.
going to look at my numbers, see what's working and double down on that. But then I realized that kind of swung too far that way. So anyway, my goal and my kind of strategy to get out of that plateau this year is to start have the base as the best sellers, which are there always, but then layer in on top new drops more frequently. And I had a meeting, funnily enough, the factory owner actually flew out from Pakistan and came to visit me this week. So I had a meeting with him. And one of the things that helped a lot is explaining to the factory, you know, what my goals are for the business and how I want to grow, and that like viewing them more as a business partner, just less so than a transactional service. So he understood that for me, it was more about like, I'll give him big orders and he'll make his bread and butter off my best sellers. But if he can help me either put out new designs quicker, and maybe take a hit on the minimums, like I'm going to order smaller amounts of these, I'll be able to churn out more designs quickly, and then ultimately he'll end up getting bigger orders because he's got the core styles that are selling plus these smaller drops that are laid on tops. In any case, now I'm rambling, but the whole point is that like, you know, like with training and business, you have to have a sort of foundation. You know, with the business, it's the best sellers and certain basics with Facebook and digital marketing. With jiu-jitsu, it's like, you know, you got to pass guard, you got to be able to retain guard, you got to have some basic subs in there and a little bit of wrestling. You know, you have to have that foundation, and then you got to layer on kind of new experiments. And the experiments will come and go because I think with me, you know, I tried a lot of stuff, and honestly, like the majority of the experiments are going to fail. Like I think there's some stats I was reading out there about digital marketers, and they were talking about their hit rate with ads, and they were like one in every 200 ads is an actual hit. So it's like you got to fail 199 times, and when you fail in business, that means you're losing money. Do you know what I mean? So it's a pretty scary thing before you find those hit rates. So unless you're pushing yourself and experimenting, you're never going to get past that plateau, which is kind of what I was thinking about when I was giving you the example of my friends. Is I realized as you were talking that their training, they kind of want to just train to feel good. So they only hit the moves that they know they can do. They only try and stay in the positions that they know that they're comfortable in. Like the minute you would try and take them into another position, like, I like playing legs. They're older guys. They're terrified of having people on their legs. So the minute you start touching the legs, they're like freaking out, spazzing out. They're like, "Ah, blah, 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 blah." I'm like, bro, relax. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna like rip anything. Like
Yeah,
you're safe. We're friends. I got experience. You got
yeah.
experience. We're all adults here. Like, you don't need to freak out and like sidestep the position just because you're scared that you're gonna, hurt your knees. And yeah, obviously you gotta be careful, and you don't want to maybe be getting in those positions with young, hungry blue belts that don't know you, that are maybe dropping in from other gyms because they're probably gonna be a little bit more aggressive. But I think with those kind of guys, they're maybe doing themselves a disservice by staying in their comfort zone just because it feels good when you're in that plateau state. But I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe I'm
I
talking
think
short.
honestly, it felt like that in the beginning. Around the time I met you too, I was, relatively starting to get more and more active in the early stages when, in the beginning you're doing grappling industries, Naga, well, grappling industries mostly, but Naga, they allow heel hooks at blue and things like that. So, and even, super fights too, right? You do a lot of these super fights. They don't really care. You can do whatever subs you want in some of them. So that was a big eye opener for me when I was like, damn, like I went from feeling very up here to like very down here because my leg lock game just didn't really get there. Even now too, like I still kind of struggle. Like I have the basic understanding now. It took me a while to figure that out. My defense is a lot better than my offense, if I'm being honest with you. But yeah, even now, like, not that I spaz out of them, but if I feel like I'm in too deep, then I'll just straight up tap. Like, I want to be able to fight another day. And then that mentally gets with me. And this was a question that I was gonna have for you, like how, and I don't think we have this in our script. This is something I thought about, but I guess you can say it kind of translates. But would you say first having that difficult conversation with yourself that something needs to change, it's what's gonna help you get over that plateau or that progress ceiling? On both business and jujitsu, would you say?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Because I think the trap I was just talking about, my friends that they fell into, training to feel good rather than training to get good are two very different things. And it's the same with business, because people are creatures of habit. I think they stick with what's comfortable. And that's a survival mechanism. Do you know what I mean? Because if you find something that's working, you want to double down on it. Like that's just human psychology. But unfortunately, we don't live in a world that kind of caters to that. We live in a very different type of environment to what we're essentially evolved to live in, which is, don't get me started on evolutionary psychology, man. I listen to too many podcasts, conspiracy theories about that shit. But like the human brain is actually like a
He's like,
it's
"Ah,
like a,
damn,
yeah, yeah. We're about to have a whole nother podcast now. Like the thing is the human brain is kind of like, I don't want to say it's stupid because like obviously we're capable of amazing things, but it's a very simple tool. It's kind of like we've got a hammer and we're trying to build a spaceship. Do you know what I mean? So you have to talk to yourself about these things and you have to like understand what's happening. It's like, all right, I'm in a plateau with my business or my training, and I don't like the plateau because I'm not progressing. So I feel like I'm stuck in a rut. That's making me depressed. It's, with the business, it can cause a lot of problems because you're like, shit, man, if I stay in this rut and I don't get past this plateau, I'm literally going to go bankrupt in maybe a year or two. Do you know what I mean? I got more bills going out than I got funds coming in. Or I'm just going to stay in this position where I got maybe debt against the business and, I'm paying for that debt because there's an interest rate on it, and I'm less like always treading water. And it's kind of like sucks because you have to work so hard just to get like the basic, like any kind of results. You just got to put blood, sweat, and tears in, which is, part of the reason why it's so rewarding. But anyway, I'm kind of rambling a bit, but yeah, you end up in a state where you're plateauing and you're kind of freaking out because you got all these big things that you're trying to deal with. But then you have to sort of remind yourself that like you have to start pushing yourself into some maybe deeper waters and experimenting. And for me, I'm like, I think like if I'm being brutally honest, like psychologically, I'm not the strongest a person. Like I freak out pretty easy. I get stressed pretty easy. But what I am, where I would lack in psychological strength, I make up for in tenacity. So like just so long as I have like a little nibble on something, like for me, it's like this new strategy. I think it's gonna work. I'll be like dogged determined to do that. And I'll like stay up, till 3, 4 in the morning, working on stuff every day. If I think it's going to work. And I think that's something that helps me get through those plateaus is like I have to see a path forward. So I'll like have that uncomfortable conversation, look at the reality of the situation, say, yeah, this kind of sucks. And if I don't do anything to change it, it's going to keep sucking. So brainstorm what you can do and the tools you have at your disposal that you can implement to get yourself through that. Someone said something, Cat Pappy, Mr. Brady Hilton over at Odyssey, said something at the end of the class the other day. And I was like, damn, bro, this guy's like half my age and he's dropping little nuggets of wisdom like he's, some ancient Chinese, kung fu guru. It was like, in your training, like you can be in a bad spot, but don't focus on what you don't have. Like, oh man, I don't have an underhook. I'm just going to fight for dear life to get the underhook. And then maybe you get it, but you're gassed out because you've had to spend all your energy. He was like, just focus on what you do have. So it was like, if you have a good grip on the other side, then build on that, develop on that rather than trying to fight tooth and nail to get something that you maybe don't have. And it's the same with business, like I don't have, you know, big rich investors or trust funds hidden anywhere. It's like literally me and my credit card, which is almost maxed out, which is another terrifying
I
thing.
feel that, bro. I
Yeah.
feel that 100%, man.
Yeah. So it's like, I got to focus on what I do have. I can't really, I can't magic up a big budget anywhere or suddenly make my Facebook ads work. So what I do have is I think I have good designs. I have good quality product. I have a good community with people like you, Drew, Odyssey, all the people around me. So like lean into that. So I'm like, okay, let's get some fresh designs into the mix. Let's, work with the factory to maybe develop the products so they're a little bit more interesting. They like I'm working on some new mesh paneling that's kind of like, it kind of looks like a Venom Spider-Man outfit. It's like super
Shit.
cool. And then like really double down on the things that are working for me in new ways so that I have that freshness and, new things to work on that can maybe help me push through this plateau. But I don't know. Ask me again in 4 weeks. I might be in tears. It didn't work, bro. I'm going back, bro.
And I,
So
it's
yeah,
crazy. I know I'm still pretty early in my, my business career when it comes to like starting my own thing. But man, like even that like combination of, matchmaking, trying to set things up, things like that. With so many competitions and tournaments and, super fights here, I feel like now it's like, even though with my splash, right, I'm starting to see more people get paid out now. So it's like, all right, like now I'm no longer like I mean, people were paying out before me, so I'm not going to sit there and say like I've been doing it, but I'm seeing it more now. Now that like I've consistently done it 2 matches in a row now, like every super fight and every tournament's offering a little bit of something. So I still need to figure out ways like you with the rash guard set, what's going to make me different. And again, and I see it with you, right? Is why I love working with you. You have a passionate, a passionateness. You may not make $1 million per sale, but like you still grind, put in time to design things. Even with me, right? Like you help me have like so many custom sets here. And that we take the time to, do that together. And like you put genuine energy into it. And I think that's why people, mess with JRI too. Cause being a competitor, being that I'm always active, people know that I'm genuine about what we're doing. Like, yeah, I want to make some money in this and eventually just be a jujitsu guy. Same with the chronic team, right? Like, I still work really close with them too. That's still my people. They come first. But it's the same for us. Like, we know we're not going to make millions of dollars per event, but if we can get to essentially a point where that's just who we are, all we have to do, while just not being I guess a monopoly, if that makes sense. Yeah, man, that's the sky's the limit for both of us, essentially. So just finding that why, and just kind of staying true to who we are, and just not being too money hungry. But it's hard too, because again, when you're putting all this time in and
I
you're not seeing much come through.
right. Yeah, rent ain't getting any cheaper. That's for sure.
Rent again cheaper. I mean, I'm blessed. You know, knock on wood, I haven't paid for, you know, a gym membership in a little while, but like there's people who still have to pay monthly gym fees and things like that. So like, you know, just I guess figuring out why you started in the first place and continuing to be excited to wake up to do what you got to do. It's going to get people, you know, excited, get yourself excited. But yeah, man, I think that's what helps out with both plateaus for both business and competitions in jiu-jitsu or just jiu-jitsu period.
Yeah, I think that's something you said that I realized is real important, and that I'd been lacking for the last few years. Last couple of years, I got so bogged down with like trying to build that core business foundation. I sort of lost track of the things that excited me in the first place, which was new designs, new drops, working on collabs with other people, and just I guess being more involved in the community rather than just so focused on building a business. I could see that with my training because I think a blue belt, it was like the flashy new moves no longer worked, so I needed to focus on quote unquote building a business, which was just your fundamentals. So like, all right, I just got to spend like the next 6 months working on guard retention, which is going to be kind of boring, not exciting, not sexy, but without it, you kind of got nothing. And then it's like, all right, now I got to do the next 6 months on guard passing. So with business, it's like, okay, I got to work on my business model. I got to work on my financials. I got to have my head buried in spreadsheets. But once you kind of got through that, which is probably the hardest part, and I think that's where the big steep learning curve is, right? And once you build like a little bit of a solid foundation, then I think that the kind of flashy moves or like the exciting stuff actually has its place. And you do need to spend a little bit of time each week focusing on them because that's what keeps it new and exciting. And I think if you don't do that, then the plateaus are just going to feel super dry and like, I think that's where people start to experience burnout. Because I was talking to my wife the other day, and I was talking about like, man, like I've been in this for like almost 4 years, and it's still not getting any easier. I still have to. I got like a second part-time job that I picked up just to help, so I don't have to take as much money from the business. So so basically, I'm up working from like 7, 8. I don't stop till like midnight, 1. Do you know what I mean? Break off a couple hours for training and walking the dog, and that's about it. Like 6 days a week, maybe sometimes 7, depending on what's going on.
And even training becomes work for you too, because at the end of the day, like you need a network, you need people to see you fresh. You're a walking model for your gear at this point, you know?
Right, right, right. So my wife was like, "Well, did you think that starting a business would ever be easy?" And I realized I was like, "No," and I actually don't mind the long hours. Like I'm okay to work till whenever. It's really what I realized I was saying. It's not that I kind of wanted it to get easier. I just needed that spark back where it was like, I need some excitement in my day. I don't want to be like looking in the Facebook ad account every day for 3 hours, figuring out what Mark Zuckerberg wants me to do with my ads. Do you know what I mean? Because that shit's just soul destroying. Because at that
Yeah.
point, I'm not running a business. I'm basically a Facebook employee. Um, so I realized it's like, it's not the hours and it's not the fact that it's difficult that kind of had me burning out during those plateaus. It's really more that I just lost the spark and I had stopped experimenting with stuff, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
And look,
and that's why
that's why Jiu Jitsu Underdogs podcast is important.
Yeah, for real. That was like one of the this podcast has been one of the sparks for this year, I think. I'm excited to see where it goes because I was like, I don't like the way social media content's going. It's going very TikTok style. And it's like, I was telling someone the other day, what most people don't see on the back end is like Instagram has another app called Edits or something like that. And every influencer that you see or content creator, 90% of them are just taking templates that Instagram's feeding them and then clipping them up and then putting them through their account. So it's not like anyone's actually, they're a creator, but they haven't created anything. They're just taking a template that's like, it's basically like some B-roll at the beginning with a caption and then like a video on the back end. So it's like this kind of engaging, funny reel. And they kind of don't realize is Instagram's feeding them that content because it knows that that's the kind of content that gets engagement and keeps them on platform so that then they can say to their shareholders, look, we got this much engagement, this many users on our platform. Their, stakes go higher. The kind of investors will get their money and everyone's happy. But it's like us on the ground floor are just being fed this same kind of content. So it's
Over and
not
over
like
again. Yeah.
one, no one's creating anything really. Majority of the content out there isn't actually created. It's a template. And then number two, it sort of funnels people into this like algorithmic mindset. And I was like, I'm done with that. Like,
Yeah,
maybe I'm old. Maybe I'm starting to sound like a freaking millennial boomer, but I was like,
man.
that holds no desire for me.
I feel
And
like
I do it because you
that's
got to play
why
the
I
game.
agree with you because, like, if you look at my stuff, like, and we've had this conversation before, I don't wanna copy anybody. That's why sometimes it takes a little bit harder, like, longer for me to send you some things because it's just like, damn, like, I just saw someone made the same shit, like, what's gonna Yeah, to me, people, mess with me and they support, but it's just like, I don't wanna be a biter, bro, like, that's just not I didn't get where I'm at being a biter, like, and I know people who don't care. It's like, "Nah, bro, I saw someone post something like this, and I'm just copying it. It's helping me get the views and the likes." And I'm like,
Right.
maybe I should be more like that, but like that's what
Yeah.
makes me me, and that's what makes you you. Like
Right.
you want to be you. You want to be original. You want to be genuine. You can't just bite off people.
But I think that's where we're talking about goals comes in. And it's like, and I know I'm kind of crapping on the templates and that, and it's actually like really good for if you are a creator because it makes it super easy and there's nothing wrong with that. And if you do want to go that route and play the engagement game, then that's fine. But for me personally, that's not what I wanted to do because I'm my objective isn't the same as Instagram's. My objective is to make the best possible business I can, the best possible training gear I can, and build a community within the business of jiu-jitsu. It's not to make Mark Zuckerberg rich. So that's why this podcast was something that's important because I wanted to try and like shine a light on what it is on the back end to be a competitor, to be a coach, to be a business owner. And hopefully, we're going to start getting a bunch of guests that can sort of give interesting and unique perspectives on that. So it's a different style of content, but kind of going off topic a little bit. But I think, yeah, for the purposes of this episode and talking about plateaus, having that little spark in your week or your day is really what's going to keep you going and break out of the cycles, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that takes us to our last topic, which is pretty much the discipline. Which we did touch on that pretty much. Just staying consistent with it. And that's what's gonna help you again, maybe find that spark or not just like when I say discipline, doing the same thing over and over when you don't want to, but discipline in a sense where it's just like, all right, like I don't want to go to practice today, but maybe I go somewhere else. Maybe I call my buddies over, we all meet up at a gym somewhere and just have fun again, like white belts, like go, man, let's go meet here and go figure it out. Like, not have to worry about, all right, like I have to make sure I hit this and hit that. Like, go back to the fundamental things. Be curious again. Just because you figured
Mm.
out a game and it worked for you and you won a bunch of medals doesn't mean that you have it all figured out. Like, like there's a buddy of mine, he's a brown belt. He went to California to train. Actually, my tattoo sponsor, Josh. Um,
Yeah, Josh. I know Josh. Cool guy.
he went to California and then he rolled with someone who he was saying he's like, bro, he has invisible jujitsu. Like he was a black belt, but like his game sparked something in him that like, now he's more excited about going to practice. Now he's more excited about training and possibly competing again. But I think he's
Yeah.
another one that I would like to have on our show because essentially, he is a tattoo artist, he's a brown belt and a coach
Yeah.
now at this point. So like, that's definitely someone we need to have on the show. But as far as like I said, my opinion overall as a competitor and, as a new business owner, do what got you excited in the first place, right? Don't just, you feel like you found your path and you figured it out. Like, I feel like for me, for example, I've done so much or like in a little bit of time, like, yeah, I didn't do anything. I feel like I haven't done anything crazy major just yet, but I've done just enough where people can be like, damn, bro, like you've made a big impact here, but it's just like for me personally, I feel like there's always more, right? For me, I think a lot of things I get in the way is a lot of my personal stuff that I need to kind of figure out. But I know once that is going, then something else is clicking, and then that's clicking, and then everything is just rolling. So yeah, man, not letting the outside noise get too loud where you forget why you're doing certain things in the first place, you know?
Right. Right. It's not about who's the best, it's about who's left. That's what I think I said it on the last episode. I was like, something my old coach used to say to me.
I didn't hear anything you just said because you froze. And I
I
felt like
could
it was
tell. That's
cool,
why I
bro, because you
stopped
fixed your
talking.
posture and everything.
Yeah, I could tell.
I
That's
just
why I
looked
stopped.
at you like,
Your eyes were like going side to side, like, I have no idea what's happening right now. No,
yeah,
I was
because you
just
froze
saying,
like this. Like that look you give someone before, like, yo, you better tap, bro. Like, that's the look you
right,
gave
right,
me.
right, right,
And I
right,
was just like, he froze.
right. Yeah, ironically, one of the things that like I'll have plateaus where maybe I get injured and I can't really train hard, but I actually found a way of to bring back a little bit of joy into training because the good thing is like when you're kind of injured, like I just popped my knee. So next kind of 4 weeks is probably going to be training is not going to be so good. But I went back on Saturday, popped on Tuesday, took a couple of days off, went back on Saturday. And actually, Saturday was like one of the most fun sessions. Sorry, that's my dog. Hey, shush.
Protecting you, bro. Making sure
I
no
know,
one
man.
takes you away, bro.
Yeah, she's fucking psycho, bro. Like, so I got speaking of dogs, I took her out. She got this red ball. It's like a football, and it's been raining, so it's like muddy as fuck in the back. She somehow got her red ball, ran around the backyard, got covered in mud. So like that's
Ugh.
why I was late starting the podcast. So like I had to clean her up before we started. Shush. But usually she gets pretty tired when she does that. But
Shouts to
today I don't
Fergie,
think she
guys.
yeah, Fergie. Fergie, named after Alex Ferguson, legendary Manchester United manager, not Black Eyed Peas or the Duchess, which everyone in this country
You
loves to
know
tell
what's
me.
hilarious? I really thought it was because of Black Eyed Peas. I'm like, all right, maybe Mark just like
Yeah, I know. Because I'll say this
not
is
judging.
Fergie, and they'll look at me like, you're a Black Eyed Peas fan? The
Your
two
dog's
don't add up.
Fergalicious.
Yeah, right. And I'm like, no, legendary Manchester United manager. He's a grumpy old Scottish man. Nothing to do with Black Eyed Peas. But in any case, what I was saying is, yeah, the Saturday session was the most fun I had in a long time because I was like, all right, I'm injured, so I can't, like, there's no expectations. Do you know what I mean? And I was just like, let me work on some random shit that I haven't done for forever. Find good training partners that, they know you're kind of busted up. So they're not going to try and kill you, but they're going to give you enough kind of pressure to make you work. I was like doing dumb shit, like did backgrounds, but I was like, all right, I got to escape, but like, I don't want to escape. I got to reverse it. So I was like, trying to enter legs off someone being on your back. Do you know what I mean? And I was like just playing around with stupid stuff like that. This regular training, I probably won't put much time into it because it's like not really fundamentals. It's not really high percentage, but because I was like, it's better than nothing. And I ended up coming out of that Saturday session with like, oh, that was a good session. I'm glad I
Guess you
went.
got
But
some good video content too, because for what I see, you have your whole school decked out. So
I know, right? Yeah, I'm lucky,
it's
man.
fire.
Like I
It's
got I got
fire.
to do a better job of that. I got to do a better job of content in general this year. But yeah, that's it from me, I think.
Yeah. What do I have? I mean, I feel like I've dropped every, Yoda S gem that I have in my back pocket. Never really realized how much wisdom I have until I come into the podcast on Sundays.
Tell you, man, it's that big ball head. There's
Yo,
there's
bro, there's
nuggets of
there's no
wisdom in
hair
here.
stopping me from getting thoughts in. That's just what it comes
All
down
right.
to. A lot of wisdom. Well,
Like Professor
like I
X.
said, guys, a little plug in some stuff. We got, Nations Athletic. We're dropping a bunch of stuff coming up in the next upcoming season. If you guys pre-ordered your, what are you calling that set? The one that looks like the Akoski clouds.
I should know this. Shadow Cloud. Shadow Cloud. It's the Shadow Cloud set. Yeah, we got a bunch of new drops actually. I just
Yeah.
put up a bunch more pre-sales because we got the Shadow Cloud. That stock should be coming in this week, so those will ship out. We just dropped a capsule for the World Cup as kind of like a teaser or a tester. Right now we got Brazil, Japan, and the USA, but I'm trying to add more countries in there, which is why I'm starting early because I want to try and get some sales going, get some momentum going, and then start adding in some other jerseys. Like I don't even have England rash
Yeah,
guards in
yeah.
there. Like I got to get those added. We got to do Germany, Italy. Then of course you got like Argentina and all the South American countries. So hopefully that'll come through. Then we just launched another
Gotta get
fundraiser.
one for your boy, little America and Ecuador for your boy.
But yeah. Mike from Chronic was asking me to do an Ecuador one too. And I got my boy asking for a Colombia one too. So we got to get that going. What else we got going on? Oh yeah, we just dropped to part 2 of the fundraiser for Palestinian Children's Relief Fund.
They
Raised
look
about
fire, by the way.
$6,000. Yeah, those ones actually came out. They're modeled off the soccer jersey too. So it's like a whole World Cup vibe going on. But shout out to everyone that brought the last set. We managed to raise about 6K for medical relief kids over there. And then what else? Some new hoodies come in, but I'm still working on the designs. But that's about it.
Yeah, that's what's up. Again, guys, promo code Jeremy_20 or, support your other nation's athletic athletes that are out there. Shouts to them. I don't know their promo codes, but it don't matter. The only one that does matter, this one right here. But what else? What else do I have? Oh, JRI 3. Maybe we can clip this bad boy too. I was supposed to announce this the other day, but life be lifing, so it kind of got in the way. But our new date for JRI 3 will be March 20. Same location still, just a week before. I have about 6 matches confirmed already. We're looking to do 3 cash prize tournaments, which is a total of now $1,500 that we're giving away. So we've We're
Oh,
getting
that's dope.
bigger and bigger. And also one of our sponsors is giving away $300, $100, $300 gift cards. So for guests who come to the show, anytime you pay for a ticket to watch the show, you qualify for a $100 gift card. So now it's not just the athletes getting paid, it's the guests pulling up to watch the show who are getting paid as well. And I got to lock in a couple of other sponsors and vendors, but that's only 3 vendors. I mean, no, actually, it's only 2 sponsors so far that are making that much of an impact because they truly believe, jujitsu, the jiu-jitsu demographic is a very big demographic and so many walks of life, we can all help each other out. So
Mm.
I'm pretty excited for this show. I'm not fighting in this one. I'm kind of one and done. I did my David and Goliath now. I think I have some of the team that are working, competing on the card, which I really don't want, but it's all good. I'm gonna let them do their thing. But yeah, some good matches. Yeah, I don't think I really got anything else. Shouts to my sponsors. Thank you, Mark, always holding it down, having me looking fresh out here. My tattoo sponsor, Josh, who I'm sure we're gonna have on the episode soon. And we do have some guests, for those who are wondering, we do have more guests coming up. I think the snowstorm kind of set things back a bit, but we're going to have some ladies on the card. I mean on the podcast. I know we're going to have eventually Adult Slayer on the card. I mean, I don't know why I keep saying card on the on the
Too
pod.
used to promoting
Yeah,
events,
so
bro.
used
That's
to
what it is.
promoting matches. We're gonna have him on the podcast soon. So we're gonna continuously to grow the show bigger and better. And for you
Yeah,
guys, special thank you for everyone who's tuning in. And I do have people who come to me surprisingly, like I guess they wait till they see me in person to tell me like, hey, I did watch the show. And it's
nice.
cool. Your point of view and your boy's point of view talking about you. So, thank you from the both of us for everyone who's supporting and, by the tens we're growing. So, tune in
Almost
for next week.
40, I think about 40 listeners on the last one. I was like, oh, damn.
Let's go. We're growing, bro.
And they
People want
weren't
to.
on my mom either.
It's all you, bro. They see one handsome dude and the guy who kind of looks like you, which is me.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, man. Well, again, Mark, thank you so much for always having me, bro. I love you,
Big
dog, and I'm
horse.
excited to see what's next, bro. Maybe we do a
Let's
live
do it.
show on some sort of stage or something eventually.
Yeah, yeah. I got ideas. I got ideas.
That'll be sick,
Little by
bro.
little.
Little by little, Hall H, Mark and Jay
Yeah,
Williams somewhere at
there
a,
you go.
at a Comic-Con or something. But yeah, that's all from me, guys. I'll catch
All
you.
right. That's it. Episode 4 in the books.
Oh,
Peace.
let's go. Oh.